Ladies and gentlemen, this is a demonstration of the Crosley floating jewel tone system, in which I have enlisted the assistance of Milton Cross, a familiar name and voice to every radio listener. Mr. Cross will play the part of a prospective purchaser of a radio phonograph combination.
I hope you have plenty of needles, Mr. Salesman. I may be a prospect, but I'm not easily pleased.
But Mr. Cross, I use no needles whatsoever. The Crosley radio phonograph has the patented exclusive floating jewel tone system.
And what might that be?
Well, it's a sapphire stylus on a tone arm of special design, balance, and construction, built for a lifetime of use. It eliminates metal needles, does away with scratch, hiss, and... But here, let me demonstrate. Do you recognize this sound?
Certainly. That's the way most phonograph records sound before the music begins.
Right. Now listen to this.
Well, I saw you place the tone arm on the record, heard the slight contact noise, but that was all.
And yet you were listening to the floating jewel on the same record groove.
That's surprising. How do you explain it?
Well, the crackling, hissing noise was the result of the sharp metal needle digging down into the bottom of the record groove. The floating jewel rested gently on the sides of the groove. With old records, it's even more apparent. No doubt you've had some real old records, Mr. Cross, that had been played until you decided they were useless, and then you'd throw them away.
Yes, that's true. And often I've suffered a real sorrow in parting with rare old records of favorite selections.
Well, then you'll be particularly interested in this next demonstration of the Crosley floating jewel tone system. Now, here's a record which has been played more than 500 times with a metal needle. Recall how those old records sounded when you finally decided to throw them away. Then listen to this old-timer being played by the floating jewel tone system.
Why, that is truly astonishing. It's not a trick, is it?
No trick, Mr. Cross. The metal needles have gouged the bottom of the groove until the original recorded impressions have become worn and indistinct. But the floating jewel takes its tone impulses from the hitherto untouched portions of the groove, the polished sides. It's very much like playing a new record. Another important point, records last up to 10 times longer with the floating jewel.
Do they really last that much longer?
Oh, yes, they do. Records played on an ordinary type of pickup with metal needles show loss of quality and deterioration after 50 to 100 playings. Now, we've played records with a floating jewel tone system up to 1,000 times without appreciable loss of tone quality.
That is amazing.
Before we conclude, I'd like to play this organ recording. Now, ordinarily, when played with a metal needle, its dominant low tones mask or distort the high tones. The floating jewel reproduces the entire range with absolute fidelity.
That's strikingly beautiful. Mr. Salesman, is the floating jewel on all Crosley radios and combinations?
Yes, Mr. Cross. Formerly, it was a feature only of the Crosley Deluxe model. But now, and in a definitely improved form, the floating jewel tone system is standard with all Crosley record-playing models. Well, Mr. Cross, would you say this was a fair and honest demonstration?
Yes, indeed I would. I am quite convinced the floating jewel tone system does what is claimed for it, and will perform for the owner of a Crosley record-playing instrument just as you have demonstrated it to me.
Thank you, Milton Cross.